All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. 2-0 have have scored 91 points, averaged 32 roughly per game. Bob, did you see this train coming?
No, no, not this fast. You and everybody who follows me knows what a huge fan I am of Klint Kubiak, Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, that offense. So I knew that this would be a good offense in time. I did not know. Nobody, I don't care who says what, nobody in their wildest acid-induced hallucinations, could have predicted this kind of start. It just nobody.
It was. I just was in awe. I mean, you went down the field, first drive, no third downs. I don't think. Boom, boom, boom. Went marching right down the field, scored a touchdown. Dallas comes right back, kicks a field goal. I'm like, I can live with that. Field goals for touchdowns. I'm good with doing that. One play, 70 yards. Rashid Shaheed on a bomb. It's now 14-3, and the Cowboys, like somebody just punched them in the face.
Yeah.
They kept showing them on the sideline, and they just had this look of confusion. Befuddlement. I'm running out of adjectives, but they look shocked. They could not believe what they were seeing. And then on a simple dump-off pass, screen pass, Kamara takes it to the house. And everybody's talking about Cesar Ruiz running with him. But it's 21-3 or 21-6. No, it's 21-3 because then getting 21-6. But they were just like, what is happening? Prior to this year, the most points the Saints ever scored in one half of football, and this includes the Sean Payton era, 28 points. They've scored 30 and 35 in back-to-back games, 15 possessions, 15 scores. Last week, 6 possessions, 6 consecutive touchdowns. This is just unbelievable. I mean, can this keep going?
At this rate, it's hard to imagine. Again, if you follow this offense, and I'm talking the system all the way back to the early 90s, and Mike Shanahan with John Elway and Steve Young, and then John Elway again. This team makes average players good and good players into stars, at every position. So can they be productive week in and week out with an occasional lapse? Yeah. Can they score 40 burgers every week and put up 30 points by halftime? I don't know. Again, it's that's a hard one to project.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, that's today's the anniversary of the first ever Saints regular season game, September 17th, 1967. And that's it right there. We saw the John Gilliam touchdown. That's the only touchdown they score. But yeah, this is footage from that game. So I will have Cowboys footage up, don't worry. But I had to put that up because, it's 57 years. Unbelievable. Who do we know is 57 years old? Not me yet. I'll tell you what. I've got some months yet. Still the best looking jerseys though. Look just like the color rush jerseys on the top, with the gold sleeve stripes and the gold numbers. Alvin Kamara, he has scored. They're counting the Christmas game because that was the last time that they played the Vikings under Zimmer. But he has scored 10 touchdowns versus Mike Zimmer's defense. Is this guy, watching kind of like The Price is Right, the little guy going up the hill, going up the little hill, and each time Kamara scores another touchdown, that thing just keeps going up, for his new contract. Is he like the perfect player for this offense?
Yeah, he is. And I thought that at the time. That's why I was so excited about Klint's hire. I kept telling people would message me and comment on different articles. How do you think Kamara is going to do in this offense? And I'd respond simply this: did you see what Christian McCaffrey did last year?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Kamara can do in this offense. Alvin is a better receiver than Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion. He might not be as Christian's probably a better inside runner. And off tackle, they're probably equal. They can do virtually the same things, be virtually the same kind of threats, receiving and running the football. So if Alvin Kamara stays healthy, that is honestly the kind of production that we can expect from him every week. 140, 150 all-purpose yards. And probably if you're a betting man, players rarely score a touchdown every single week. But if you're willing to make a small wager that Alvin scores at least one score every single week, that's a pretty good bet.
And we talked a little bit about this last week, but the thing that gets me is just how much better this offensive line looks.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to your point about the Kubiak system. It's like they are putting this offensive line in positions where they don't have to worry about, Penning struggles when he has to take on guys one-on-one. The left guard is a journeyman kind of player. It's he gets rid of the ball so quickly, and they create such a perfect here's the bomb to Shaheed, and it's like this game was on. And it's so funny because people just do not know who Rashid Shaheed is. He's been in the league 3 years, but they're just going, who is this guy?
Right.
They only knew Olave, and they're like, yeah, he's not that much. But Shaheed is just taking the top off of defenses. And this is something else that also helps this offensive line because now they can't put 8 in the box. Because if they do, Shaheed's taking the top of this defense off. And when they try and do 8 in the box, when they try and blitz Carr, because they think, okay, this is going to be a pass play, we're going to try and put the pressure on Carr and break this up. Carr hits him with the backdoor pass, a screen pass that goes the distance for a touchdown. So they're like, no matter what we do, we're wrong. We're going to give up a big play because of it. It's so much fun to watch this happen because it's like no matter what they dial up, and it's not anything special. It really isn't. But whatever they dial up, it's working. And Kamara is a perfect example of that. He's able to bounce outside when they start to stretch the defense, and they're now going to start, cheating over to cover the outside. Here he comes. They're going to slip him in the middle. They're going to slip him between the tackle and the guard. It's just amazing. It really is. And it's all out of the same formations.
Yeah, and I got news for you. We've only seen the tip of the iceberg as far as what this offense can do. We've seen Shaheed and Olave come out of the backfield a couple of times as running backs. We're going to see more of that. We've only seen Taysom Hill get like 7 touches, I think. That's going to increase. And you just mentioned when teams manage to adjust to try to account for Olave and Shaheed when they line up on the outside. You have Jawan Johnson and Foster Moreau, who were coming off pretty darn good games in week 1. We know the system loves to utilize athletic tight ends. So we haven't seen that either. We haven't seen Alvin Kamara throw a pass on a pitch sweep. That's going to happen. So many more things this offense can do out of so many more formations and motion packages. And this is only week 2. That's why I say this is only the tip of the iceberg, because Clint's been smart. He has not thrown the entire playbook at these players yet, at least in the weekly game plans. For them to have to digest all of it at once. It's going to happen in stages.
I mean, just look at that run just now, and this one here too. No one touches him. No one's really touching Kamara till he's into the second level.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Jamal Williams there, but even on this touchdown run, look at this. Nobody touches him. He's in the end zone. It's just amazing that, like you said, he's ideal for this fit for this offense because he still has the jets. He still has the maneuverability. He still has the flexibility. He still has the ability to make people miss. And he hits the hole, and it doesn't look like he's really going as fast as he is until you start seeing the separation build. Mm-hmm. So, and Jamal Williams looks like a new back in this offense. Again, I hate to keep, I got to bring up a negative, but this is, I think, again, why Dennis Allen was so pissed off about Kendre Miller not being healthy, because he's looking at this going, see what you could do in this thing, see what you can do with greater speed. We can run the ball even more with a 3-headed attack.
Yeah.
And Miller gives you the pass catching ability that Williams just simply does not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just, that was an incredible interception. I couldn't believe Tebow was still going, and this sets up, the Derek Carr touchdown in a minute. It's just amazing because I always said, and I think I wrote this this week in my Good, Bad, and Ugly. I always said that what Dennis Allen wanted was an offense that could move the ball, score points, and then let my defense and special teams win the game, essentially. Yeah. I want to have a defense that only has to play a team that's one-dimensional. They got to throw the ball because I'm turning my pass rush loose, and I'm going to let my secondary, which is the strength of my team, just beat the crap out of your receivers and get my turnovers to set up my offense again to score more points. And he's really getting it, except this offense is a lot better than I think even he wanted it to be.
Yeah, it sure looks like it. And I mean, the Saints offense, has to be one of, if not the biggest surprise of the league, so far after 2 weeks. And they played so well that they've overshadowed how well this defense has been playing. Mm-hmm. I mean, they absolutely steamrolled, what we think is going to be an abysmal Carolina team. But then, there wasn't too many people that doesn't have respect for what the Dallas Cowboys can do offensively, especially their passing game. And the Saints just destroyed that dimension. I know, you look at the numbers, and Dak Prescott's passing numbers are pretty good. CeeDee Lamb's receiving numbers, they're pretty good. But then take away that 65-yard fluke touchdown, where Adebo and Tyrann Mathieu, tried to put on early Halloween costumes of Ken Crawley and Marcus Williams. You take that play away, and the Cowboys did absolutely nothing through the air. Brandon Cooks, non-factor. CeeDee Lamb, a couple short receptions. The tight end, a few catch and runs when the Saints were playing off coverage, and Jalen Tolbert, a couple receptions late after the game had long since been decided.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys were a playoff team last year, and I watched some of the footage from the Cowboys side, and basically they were saying this feels like the Green Bay game again for them. They never got any better. Their running backs are older. They have some small running backs, but they really couldn't run the football to get the Saints offense off the field. They were forced to throw the ball a lot, but that's also what they want to do.
Right.
That's part of Mike McCarthy's new philosophy is I'm going to put the ball in the air a lot because I want an all-star receivers. This is what Jerry Jones likes. I want all-star receivers. I want to see big plays. I want to see all that stuff. And running the ball just doesn't do it for Jerry. I mean,
right. Even though he won 3 Super Bowls with Emmitt Smith, that's just senility at its finest, I guess.
He just remembers, and it's your way your mind thinks sometimes. He just remembers, Michael Irvin, the triplets, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Jay Novacek. He remembers that stuff. And they were running back then. They were basically running Ernie Zampese's offense, the old Air Coryell offense.
Yeah.
So he liked that too. Yeah, I mean, it's really they were just in shock the whole time. I mean, and granted, this is week 2. No one's getting fired because of this performance, but it was very eye-opening for the Cowboys because they won 16 straight, I think, at home, regular season games, not counting the playoffs. But it's just, I don't know. I watched the Philadelphia Eagles last night and the Atlanta Falcons, so I can kind of get a preview of the next 2 games. And I tell you what, I was not impressed with either of those teams.
No.
I thought that was some of the most atrocious coaching decisions I have ever seen in a professional football game. You have a minute. It's past the 2-minute warning. The Atlanta Falcons are timeouts. You've got about a minute and 40 left, something like that. It's 3rd down. If you run the football, you've been running it well all night. Saquon Barkley's been taking it to the Falcons all night. At worst, it's 4th and 1, and the clock keeps running because they can't stop it. Why on earth do you even contemplate throwing a pass? Granted, he was open. Granted, he should have caught it. But why take that risk? It's mind-boggling. So now you're kicking the field goal, and Atlanta's got a minute and 30 left. And you kick the ball out of bounds. This is something we haven't talked a whole lot about, but the change in the kickoff rules, the guys want to kick the ball and make it land in the quote-unquote landing zone, where teams are forced to return it. And if you're forced to return it, the clock starts running. But instead he kicks it out the end zone, so no clock runs. So Atlanta had a minute 30 to run their 2-minute offense. 4 plays later, they're in the end zone. I watched that game, and I'm like, the Saints can hang 40 points on both of these teams.
Yeah.
Because both of them like to run the football. Both of them have an okay passing game, but not a great one. And I'm sorry, Kirk Cousins cannot drive that ball anymore. I watched him. He's throwing everything flat-footed or off his back foot. He cannot, because his torn Achilles is, I think, in his right foot. That's his driving foot. He can't do it. He cannot drive that ball. So,
yeah, you're also talking about one of the most overrated quarterbacks of all time to begin with. All time.
Yeah, he knows how to make money because
he's a genius at that.
The only other person I thought made more money than him or had a better money-making game than him is Chase Daniel. He made a lot of money for never playing. But going back to Kubiak, what was Kirk Cousins' best year as a Viking? Klint Kubiak was his offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
doing a lot of the things that we are seeing Derek Carr do right now.
Yep.
Except Derek Carr is putting out a much better deep ball than Kirk Cousins did.
Oh, yeah. Alan, I'll go you one further. When Kirk Cousins first broke in with the Washington Redskins, who is his coach? Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
Who mentored Gary Kubiak, who, of course, is the father of Klint Kubiak. So this offense, you can make a strong case for this offense, Klint Kubiak's offense, making Kirk Cousins all that money in the first place with Minnesota. Yeah. If I'm suddenly pissed at Klint Kubiak because you could make a case for him and the Shanahans being the sole innovators for the success for the entity that is Kirk Cousins. So I'm kind of pissed now.
Well, it's beyond Kirk Cousins. I mean, we got to have fun with Kirk, but especially next week when it's Falcon Heat week.
Yeah.
But you look at Brock Purdy. You look at a lot of these. Matt Ryan's his 2016 MVP season. That's Shanahan.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of the things that we are seeing Derek Carr do right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not about to go out on a limb and say Derek Carr could be an MVP of the league. But he is showing an MVP type of performance. I don't think he's going to get it for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Saints are jumping on teams so early that he's barely throwing the ball. I think he's throwing the ball 39 times this year in 2 games. Both games with about 5.5 or 5 and some change left. Jake Hayner's come in and taken over, which is good. That's a good thing. That's what you want to see. But I think he was 11 of 16 against the Cowboys. He was like 15 or 16 of 20 against the Panthers. So he's just not putting the ball up in the air very much. Now he's getting big plays when he does, but he's not going to put the ball up in the air 40 and 50 times a game like he was doing last year. I made a comment that he had put the ball up in the air, I think 45 times in the first 2 games against the Titans and I think against Carolina last year. But he also took 8 sacks.
Yep.
He had a lower completion percentage.
Yep.
This year, he's only put the ball 39 times. He's 30 of 39. About the same yardage, maybe 100 yards less.
Yeah, about 100 yards less, but about 13 completion percentage points higher.
Yeah. And he's only taken 1 sack.
Yep.
And it really, I kind of question how much of a sack I thought he got it over the line, but he really didn't. He kind of slid up in the pocket and they brought him down from behind.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, he's not taking a beating because he's getting the ball out of his hands quickly because the reads are there. It's night and day. It really is. Let's stick to blaming everything on Roger Goodell. I tell you what, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but a lot of people are mad that Kendrick Lamar is going to be the halftime entertainment, and I put that in quotation marks. The halftime entertainment for the Super Bowl, and the reality is they're like, how come Lil Wayne's not there? How come you pick your Louisiana artist? How come they're not there? Guys, I just want to tell you, it's not up to the host city to choose the entertainment.
No.
It's all corporate. It's all based out of New York. I don't remember who the guy is anymore, who's the halftime entertainment director, but he's some rap artist. And basically, he's the guy that makes the decisions of who he thinks is going to draw the biggest audience there. It's not the New Orleans people saying, we're going to go national. We're going to go and get some guy that's nationally known. Even though Lil Wayne, for example, is nationally known, we're going to pick Little Wayne. We're not going to do Amanda Shaw. We're not going to bring in Wayne Cocaine Tubes. We're not going to bring in those guys. We're gonna bring national people. That's just the way it is. Oh, and 67. Since we're talking about the Eagles, Saints' first ever win in franchise history against the Eagles. Bob, looking at the Eagles game, this was a hot ticket even before the Saints turnaround here. A lot of Eagles fans are traveling. Do you still think we're going to get a pretty good crowd of Eagles fans, or you think they're going to kind of be pissed off about Monday night and, and they've seen what the Saints do, not want to watch a massacre in the Superdome?
No, I think there'll still be a nice contingent of Eagles fans. They'll be you're right, Jimmy Gumbo. They'll be pissed at Monday night, but they'll travel because New Orleans, especially for us morons up north. New Orleans is considered a vacation destination for us. Now, I've been there many times for business and pleasure. Usually I intermix the two. But a lot of people, Buffalo a couple years ago, the Bills fans traveling down there. Folks from up north, especially later in the year, more so than September, but they love the opportunity to come down to New Orleans, come down to Miami, come down to Tampa Bay whenever possible. So yeah, I do think that there's going to be a fairly strong contingent of Eagles fans, maybe not in attendance at the game, but certainly in the city and along Bourbon Street.
Oh yeah. Well, they're going to want to come for sure for Bourbon Street and the partying. Probably not so much the game.
Right.
Because going back to the Monday night game, after the Eagles lost that game with an interception by Jalen Hurts, the fans were staying in the stands, and I kept looking. They kept showing them, and I'm like, man, these fans look like they're waiting for the coach to get close to the stands so they can get their hands on him.
Yeah.
Because, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love doesn't exist in either the Vet, when the Vet existed, or Lincoln Field.
Nope.
I'm really curious to see what kind of team comes out, because you're coming off of a loss. Now you have to travel to New Orleans on a short week. A.J. Brown will not be playing, so that's a big plus. Marshawn Lattimore could have played, but Dennis Allen chose to sit him down, which actually in the long run is a good thing to do, because you want him to be healthy. I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry played a fantastic game.
Yeah.
He didn't have to go up against CeeDee Lamb. They tried to match CeeDee Lamb against, which was really strange, but kept trying to match him up against Paulson Adebo, who I thought was the stronger of the two cornerbacks. I would have tried to get Lamb on the rookie, and they just didn't do it at all. So you're now going to come up against the Eagles, the kryptonite for the Saints, Jalen Hurts, a mobile quarterback who did not look very fast last night. But yeah, you're playing against a mobile quarterback. Saquon Barkley has hurt the Saints before, and A.J. Brown's not there, but they still have a lot of speed in that receiving core. How do you see this game playing out? What if you're Dennis Allen, you're trying to match up your defense? How do you see this game playing out that you want to try and limit what Philadelphia can do offensively?
And that's actually the side of the ball where this matchup scares me the most, because we have seen what Jalen Hurts and the Eagles rushing attack can do to the New Orleans Saints defense in the not too recent past. We've seen what Saquon Barkley, while with the Giants, can do to the Saints defense in the not so recent past. Now, New Orleans has very good run defense numbers right now, but you can attribute part of that to, when you hang a 30 burger on someone at halftime, they sort of abandon the run in the second half.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not paying attention to the rushing numbers, opponents' rushing numbers per se, as much as I am that 3.1 per carry that opponents are averaging. So I'm like, okay, that's a little bit more encouraging. That's telling me that the Saints are winning the battle of the line of scrimmage on these running plays, at least early in the game. And you're going to have to do that, especially against Philadelphia. What killed New Orleans in the past, against Hurts, Miles Sanders, and the Eagles' running attack, was the inability to maintain their gap discipline. And they were just getting bludgeoned in the gaps. So that worries me a little bit. I think I'm thinking Willie Gay is healthy, and he's one of the reasons why, this game is one of the reasons why Willie Gay was signed. To add speed to that second level, to deal with guys like Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley when they do get past that first line of defense. So maintaining the gap discipline and winning your battles up front is going to be of vital importance, because if you can make Jalen Hurts throw the ball 30, 35 times, advantage Saints. And that's with or without AJ Brown. And now without, I'm a big fan of Devontae Smith, but he's not a top tier featured receiver. And I love Jahan Dotson coming out of college with when Washington drafted him out from Penn State. But he hasn't really lived up to expectations. And even his style of play is much like Devontae Smith. So they don't, outside of tight end Dallas Goedert, who I think can be handled pretty easily by Demario Davis or Tyrann Mathieu. Philly doesn't have that big-bodied wideout. Where this is why I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints sat Marshawn Lattimore again and rest that hamstring a little bit more, because when you're going up against an AJ Brown, you want a Marshawn Lattimore. Without an AJ Brown, this Saints defense has more than enough secondary talent to deal with Devontae Smith, Dotson, and those other Eagle receivers. But the key is going to be being able to shut down that running game and make Philadelphia feel like they have to throw the football to win.
Yeah, when I was watching the game, I was looking at a lot of the things that Philadelphia likes to do. And, Devontae Smith reminds me a lot of Brandon Cooks, just a taller kind of receiver, not a big physical guy, a guy who's going to blow by you. It's a matchup that the Saints can bracket him and limit yards after the catches, and that's what we have seen outside of the busted play that that CeeDee Lamb scored on. That was the thing that Saints were doing last Sunday, bracketing guys. If a guy caught the ball, they were getting tattooed. Both Will Harris and Tyrann Mathieu really laid the lumber on some of these receivers and dislodged the ball by doing that. Against a guy like Devontae Smith, that will have an impact on him.
Yeah.
He's a great receiver, but he's a number 2 guy. He's not the number 1 guy. The number 1 guy is AJ Brown. And that's hard to replace somebody who's a big, physical, strong, fast receiver. I hate to say it like this, but a faster Michael Thomas, essentially.
Yeah,
somebody who's going to outmuscle you. So I'm looking forward to this. And you're right, Calvin. Willie Gay was signed for this game. Willie Gay has been playing. They've just been playing on special teams right now because they haven't needed him. Again, because the offense has put up so many points so fast that they're not really running the ball anymore. They kind of abandoned the run, trying to get back in the game because teams are finding themselves 11, 14, 21 points down before the first quarter is over. It really is. It's an amazing thing to see. I think they will go with a lot more 3 linebackers in this situation. They may go 2 linebackers, and this time it's Willie Gay and Demario Davis out there.
With Alontae Taylor as that fifth defensive back. Yeah, I do like that alignment.
Yeah. Alontae Taylor, let's talk a little bit about
Mhm.
him, because we really haven't. We talked about his 3 sacks last week, but I'm glad you brought him up. Last year when he was playing the nickel, it seemed like every week we were reading, he doesn't belong in the nickel. He's an outside corner. He doesn't belong inside. He's an outside corner. He doesn't belong. Look at, he's making all these mistakes. This year, it's a lot different.
Yes.
It's a big turnaround. And I think that's one of the keys to the strength of this team, is that you were seeing a physical inside impact. And it's just, I love watching him. I look for him now every time. I'm like, they're going to try and go at Alontae Taylor, and they're going to find out. It's F-O, no, F-A-F-O right here. You know, I mean, when you go against number one. And they're turning him loose on the blitz, too. He didn't get the Dak, but they tried it a couple times to get Dak, to go get Dak with Alontae Taylor. So I would not be surprised to see him also come in on blitzes to try and get Jalen Hurts.
Oh, absolutely. And it's obvious to me that Alontae Taylor spent a lot of offseason in film study, with coaches, probably working out with receivers, with slot style receivers, because you see that leap and bound improvement in his play, and I don't even know how to say this. I felt a little bit bad being critical of Alontae Taylor last year because of his slot play, because I knew how good a player he was. It just, and like you said, it was more or less of a case of he's not a bad player. He's just out of position. And last year he was. And I don't necessarily blame the Saints for doing it, because I mean, it's coaching 101. You want all your best players on the field as much as possible. And that's what they were trying to do by moving Alontae Taylor into the slot. But he obviously wasn't ready for those duties last year. This year you're talking about, as you mentioned, a completely different player. And an absolute difference maker on defense because of his physicality and athleticism. He's a real factor, at that slot spot, because you can bring him on blitzes. You can loop him around, and bring him as either an inside pass rusher, or kind of a hybrid extra linebacker on run support. He's kind of the joker. I know this is a collegiate defensive term, but he's kind of a joker for the Saints defense right now. A lot of the same kind of roles Tyrann Mathieu played at in his prior stops in his NFL career, where Alontae's just a guy you can move around the formation, and teams don't necessarily think they have to account for him right now. But that's going to change in the upcoming weeks, because he's just making too many plays to be ignored.
Absolutely. And, I even talked about, we haven't even talked about, the play of Will Harris, and even, I just drew a blank on his name.
Jordan Howden.
Safety. Jordan Howden. We haven't really talked about them at all. And Jordan Howden's been worked in a lot. But the safeties just aren't being asked to make a lot of plays. And I had speculated during the training camp that, if they don't get an upgrade at safety, that Alontae Taylor may end up playing safety, which we all thought that's what he was being drafted to do. Well, he's turned out to be an outstanding nickel cornerback, and he's taken all the pressure off the safeties. They can just sit there and play coverage. And you're even seeing Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, kind of roaming and making interceptions because of it. He's not being asked to, be the single high safety, hang back there, make sure nothing comes deep over the top. He's out there doing what he can do best. It's just stunning. It really is, and I get it. A lot of it is because they've got these teams in a one-dimensional mode, but the defense is helping keep them one-dimensional because they're not getting gashed for running plays. They're not getting gashed for plays that keep long drives and keeps that Saints offense off the field. It's amazing. I'm going to go back to this question in a minute, Calvin. I got a couple of thoughts on that, but I wanted to bring up, since we're talking about safeties and nickelbacks, we're going to go and talk a little bit about two former Saints who are now playing for the Philadelphia Eagles, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Zach Bond. I remember, it's hard to believe it was 2 weeks ago now, the Thursday night game, the Eagles are playing, or Friday night game, the Eagles are playing the Green Bay Packers, and it became the Zach Bond love fest.
Yeah.
Because Zach Bond had the Al Bundy poke high game of his life against the Green Bay Packers. And, Uncle Rico, you want to go there, that kind of thing. I watched Zach Bond last night, and I'm like, there you are. There's the guy I remember. There's the guy I watched play for the Saints. I watched a guy struggle to cover passes, struggle to make tackles, making them downfield, drag tackles downfield. Guy that when he tried to blitz, he got manhandled. That's the guy I remember from the Saints.
Yep.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, though, will be back, and I don't think Zach Bond has any bitterness regarding his time with the Saints.
No.
He knows it's a business, and he's happy he still has an opportunity to play. In fact, there was quite a few Saints on there. There was Caden Ellis and David Onyemata for the with the Falcons. But Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, though, is pissed. He holds grudges. He's gonna have a grudge match against Dennis Allen and the Saints. He's going to have a grudge match against Detroit whenever they play Detroit. It's just it's that kind of, he's that kind of person.
Yep.
What do you think of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and the Saints going up against the Saints?
First of all, just for entertainment value, I wish Michael Thomas was still on this team just for this game. Because both of those guys would be ejected within the first 2 minutes, and then we wouldn't have to worry about either one of them from that point forward. I've always been a fan of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as a player, and this is going all the way back to his time with the Florida Gators. I've never been a fan of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the human being, and I use that in loose quotation. He's a punk. He's a punk. He's an agitator. He is the kind of guy that when he's on your team and has his motivational head into the game, he's a fun player. He kind of gets the rest of the players on your team fired up. If for no other reason than they need to amp up his teammates need to amp up their motivation in order to not get their asses kicked because the opponents are just so pissed. He's also and we saw it his first go around in Philadelphia. We saw it certainly with New Orleans in his time on his way out the door. He's a cancerous personality. And when things start to go bad, and things could very easily start to go bad for this Philly team fast, he will be one of the primary reasons why your locker room starts to unravel. Now, on the field, it's going to be a challenge to the composure of Chris Olave, who seems to be a pretty laid back personality.
Yeah.
But when a Chris Olave faces off against a shithead talker, not a shit talker, a shithead talker, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I can't picture Olave doing a lot of pushing and shoving back, maybe a little jawing, but I want to see something out of Chris Olave here. When he faces off against that type of personality, is he going to be the type to step up his game to shut the other guy up, or is he just kind of going to kind of go into a shell? You mentioned Brandon Cooks before, and from what I remember of Brandon Cooks' time in New Orleans, Brandon put up a lot of big plays. But when he faced a team with an intimidating type of secondary, Brandon Cooks sort of disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if Chris Olave is that type. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying we're going to find out about Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed, I think, is the type that you get in his face and you talk some junk. Shaheed's going to make some plays. I want to see if Chris Olave is going to be that same way. And what other Saints players? Because there's not a lot of Saints players on that offense. Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, of course, but he's not going to get under their skin.
Right.
There aren't a lot of other players on that offense that were there when Gardner-Johnson was there that I can think of.
Yeah, that's something that's really interesting because you don't realize how much this roster has been turned over in 2 years, but he's basically been gone since 2022, and it's not a whole heck of a lot. Now, I'd like to see him try and start something with Trevor Penning. I don't think he's that crazy. I really don't think he's that crazy, but we'll find out, Calvin, when the injury reports start coming out, if Taysom's going to play. I kind of will be surprised if he doesn't play. I just think they're going to use him, but they may not use him as much as they have been, especially at fullback.
Yeah.
I think they'll use him more as a motion tight end guy and on kick returns, that kind of stuff, if he comes out there and plays. So we'll see. But, I think he's going to try and get under Chris Olave's skin. I think he's going to try and start something with Shaheed. The thing about Shaheed is he's just going to run by you.
Mm-hmm.
So how much shit talking can you do if he's blowing past you for a 70 or 80-yard touchdown? I mean, he's just going to go and point the scoreboard and say, you try covering me, So I don't know. I think it's going to be more at Dennis Allen, and he's going to be trying to strip the ball from Kamara, trying to strip the ball from Jamal Williams, just trying to make plays and be activating, try and pick off Derek Carr. I think he's probably going to try and freelance a little bit, which I would not be surprised to see Kubiak take advantage of that freelancing, that he's so desperate to make a play in front of the fans in the dome that he's going to open the defense up for a big play because he's going to go chasing after the wrong guy. Okay, so the Saints offense now against the Eagles defense. Man, there's a truism about the Eagles, and it's been this way since Reggie White left to go to Green Bay. The Eagles have just not been very good against the run.
Yeah.
And despite having 2 first-round picks at defensive tackle, both guys from Georgia, one of the guys that the fans were all pissed off that we didn't get because we made the trade for Penning, man, they don't look very good against the run for some reason.
No, and they're having a hard time rushing the passer, for the last year and a half now. And I can't figure it out. I was kind of bemoaning this out loud on Jordy Hallberg's show this morning too. You look at the names in that front seven. And let's leave Zach Bond out of it, for a minute.
Mhm.
But you're talking, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, Brandon Graham is still there, Nolan Smith. Then up front in the trenches, you got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, who you were talking about. Byron Young. These are some big-bodied guys. Some established veterans. Some Pro Bowl caliber pass rushers. Yet they can't rush the passer anymore. They can't stop the run anymore. They are getting gashed, and I expected. If Philadelphia, as you know, Alan, Philadelphia changed both coordinators this last offseason. You
Mhm.
basically used them as scapegoats for a heartless and gutless finish. But they brought in Vic Fangio. Now, if there's one thing we know about Vic Fangio, he can coach defenses and he can bring pressure. But
Absolutely.
he's changing over that defensive scheme. Philadelphia for years, since Reggie White, was a 4-man front. And Fangio's defense has always, since the days of the Dome Patrol, has always been a 3-4 front. So I expected some bumps in the road, but especially against the run. But I didn't expect holes as big as I saw Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier run through last night. And again, we know Vic Fangio can pressure the passer, but we haven't seen that from these guys yet. We saw Cousins go down a couple of times
No.
last night, 2 of them reversed by penalty. But for the most part, during key parts of the game, Cousins had his pick of receivers back there because they weren't getting to him.
No, Darius Slade, like he was moving, his feet were in concrete. The cornerbacks just are not impressive at all.
No.
So I just feel like they really have an opportunity to take advantage of matchups. They lost their best pass rusher, who refuses to report to the Jets because he is not happy that the Jets were not going to extend him a new contract. So that's hurt a lot to me because he was great on third down. That's when you wanted to turn Hassan Riddick loose, was on third down. And he would play that roaming kind of pass rusher, much like what you saw out of Michael Parsons, much like what you saw out of what's his name is Kenyon Thibodeau from the Giants. When the first year of Dable's system, Dable's kind of ruined him now, but his first year they had him kind of roaming a little bit and looking for the matchup where he could rush the passer. You lost that. So now you're trying to figure out a way to generate a pass rush without necessarily always blitzing, and you still don't have the linebackers for it. Devon White, who LSU fans all know and love, and he infamously injured Jameis Winston. I just drew a blank on his name. But Jameis Winston, that Tampa game, he was a healthy scratch last night. He can't even break this defense. As bad as this defense is, he can't break the starting lineup. Now, they may put him in this week just because they're dissatisfied with the way they're playing the run, but man.
Yeah, and White has played against New Orleans a lot before. So, yeah, I agree with you. I do expect him to be active.
So, to me, I think the big thing is it's all going to be about Kamara. It's going to be about this offensive line, being able to move these guys, a lot of misdirections, a lot of wide outside zone running to try and spread these guys out and just get Kamara into the open space. And I think this offensive line can push these people around.
Yeah, I do too. Now the one thing that worries me again, I'm giving Fangio props because of his reputation, his well-deserved reputation. It does worry me when the Saints are in an obvious passing situation. The 34 front, some of those Eagles pass rushers against Trevor Penning in space. Now you have, especially Bryce Huff, an athletic guy that's going to be able to come at Penning from a standing start, which means you already have an athletic advantage over a tackle coming out of a 3-point stance. And now you're talking about a tackle as heavy-footed as Trevor Penning. If I were Klint Kubiak, especially in obvious passing situations, I would leave an extra back or a tight end, as a sidecar on that side with Penning, to not chip, but flat out pick up a guy if he does a spin move on Trevor and gets past him on the inside. That's the only aspect of this matchup that really worries me.
And it's interesting because I just don't think they're going to leave Penning alone to get that. Now, they had a lot of single blocks on between Penning and Micah Parsons, but I just don't think they're going to leave him in a position where he's going to have to deal with that. It's going to be more of Carr's going to be running a bootleg away from Penning's side. They're a left-handed team now. Fuaga, who we have not talked about at all, but Fuaga looks like the real deal.
Yeah, he does.
He is, even despite the back injury, he's still throwing people out the club, and he is moving like a first-round future All-Pro pick. So yeah. I can't say enough good things about this pick, and the fact that we are barely even talking about him just tells you how good of a player he really is. Patrick from the Bears, who is moving in the left guard, he was punishing people in that Cowboys game.
Yeah.
They focused a lot on him, and on 2 of those touchdown runs, he got out there in space and was knocking linebackers on their ass.
Yep. And on that screen pass, I'm sorry, go ahead. On that screen pass, everybody wants to talk about Ruiz, sprinting down the field with Kamara. And now, that was a hell of an athletic play from Ruiz. But that screenplay doesn't go the distance without a block from Lucas Patrick. It gets stopped for about a 7-yard gain. So I agree with you. The tackles are getting all the praise. As well as I guess they should, because that was the point of major worry. But Lucas Patrick, Cecil Ruiz, Eric McCoy, they're playing really, really good football inside too.
It's such a joy to watch it because they're a machine. And this is where the coaching matters, because you see them moving. I don't know how to explain it without quoting Lombardi, but it's like a synchronous dance, how they are just going where they're supposed to go. And you see them line up like dominoes, and they're just blowing people off the line, because it's like, here's my guy, boom, take him. And I got him, boom. And they're just going in that straight line on those outside runs, and no one is touching Kamara until he's into the second level. And then his natural agility is just taking what could be a 7-yard run into a 13-yard run. It's great. It's beautiful. It's no other way to put it. It really is. And I watch Foster Moreau is now kind of moved into that number 1 tight end slot. And it's probably because, Juwan Johnson's still getting his feet under him. He's still trying to get healthy, trying to get into shape. But Foster Moreau is showing the blocking and the receiving ability. I saw a couple of times where he took on Micah Parsons by himself and made great blocks. But they don't have to hold that block very long. That's what's so beautiful about this. You only have to hold your block just for a second, 2 seconds. You're not giving that defense an opportunity to manhandle you. You're making contact, and boom, the ball's gone, or the player's gone. And the defender's now trying to disengage, turn around, and chase the guy down who's just run past him.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked a little bit about this last week. about the Shanahan Kubiak system. Uh, Preaching teamwork, intelligence, and angles.
Yeah.
For the entire offensive line. And they don't necessarily have to be big physical specimens that are going to pancake their guys in one-on-one matchups. They just use the guy's momentum. The defender's momentum. Whatever angle or the direction the defender is moving, that lineman, that blocker, just kind of helps him along, and a hole is naturally created. You look through the history of this system. Again, going all the way back to the early '90s Bronco years. I know,
Yeah.
people didn't want to put Terrell Davis in the Hall of Fame or recognize him for his greatness, mainly because the backs that came after Davis, Olandis Gary, Mike Anderson, Reuben Drones, all had 1,000 yards in that system. So they were kind of downplaying Davis's accomplishments. And all those backs, Davis was a great back. Gary and Anderson were underrated backs. But it was because of those offensive lines. Arian Foster in Houston. It was because of that offensive line. I mean, yes, the backs had skills too. Scouting department did a great job of finding all these guys in the late rounds or the undrafted guys. But you look at those offensive lines. There were no Willie Roafs. Or John Hanna's or Ryan Ramchek's. In other words, standout individual linemen. They were just outstanding as a unit. And now this Saints offensive line, I agree with you about Fuaga. He's a player. Eric McCoy, one of the best centers in the league. But Lucas Patrick, a journeyman. Trevor Penning on the verge of being a bust before switching positions. And hell, who knows? Maybe that light switch did turn on for Penning. That's just the player that he was coming in. Cesar Ruiz, inconsistent at best. And collectively, you look at what this line is doing right now. Again, you and I have said it. I don't know how many times tonight. It is only 2 games in, but nobody could have predicted the success of this unit after these 2 games, and that's what we're trying to focus on here.
And yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that gets me is how well they have them working as a unit, and they're working in tandem. There's nobody out there who is just completely out of position and not knowing what the hell they're doing. They all know it's been drilled in their heads, and this is just a tremendous coaching job, and it's because of the coaches that you just mentioned have been doing this for so long, and they just put the film on, and it's a lot of teaching, and you can see that showing up in the games, and they're getting results, so the players are fully bought in. I mean, Kamara is so happy right now. He's always smiling after the games. He's just talking to the reporters. Last year he looked so frustrated. All of them did. That you just see it's night and day with this, and they are so bought in because they're getting so much success. Derek Carr is, we talked about him earlier, but Derek Carr is having an elite season because the system has made it so easy for him. So I'm just really enjoying everything I'm seeing right now. So I want to go back for the last thing tonight. I want to go back to what Calvin had said about Kamara. We made the joke, or I made the joke that this is like The Price is Right, the little mountain guy climbing up the thing. The higher he's going, how far does he go before he goes off the edge? Is this Saints team or is this Saints front office, just looking at this as Kamara just keeps having these big games, and if he gets 20 touchdowns this year, which is very likely. I mean, I'm not putting that out the realm of possibility. 20 touchdowns,
sure,
and 1,000 yards. Do they now say we're going to make a deal and we're going to sign this guy? They're not paying him $21 million, and they're certainly not going to say, "Yeah, it's the system." I'm not going to. We're going to let Kamara walk. But the question is, are you gonna pay a guy who's almost 30, or who will be 30 next year?
Yeah, I think you do. Because you know what Alvin Kamara can do in this system. And Alvin, unlike Christian McCaffrey, who's the same age, came out in the same draft class, Alvin, unlike McCaffrey, has stayed relatively healthy, has not had any serious injury. I mean, Alvin's been nicked up, but nothing serious or where he's missed significant time, unlike McCaffrey. And I chuckle because I go back to as you were asking the question, I went back to what you said about Dennis Allen being so pissed at Kendre Miller earlier. If Kendre Miller's healthy right now, I think we know Kendre Miller has the ability. I think Kendre flashes the same kind of abilities that Alvin has, and therefore gives the Saints sort of a negotiating chip at the table, saying, look, Alvin, if you don't sign for the money that we offered you, Kendre Miller is perfectly capable of stepping in here and doing the same things that you're doing. They don't have that negotiating ploy right now.
No.
So, if Alvin keeps doing what they're doing, again, this Kubiak system has a history of producing, highly productive backs. But there's always an outlier to it. For every Olandis Gary, there's a Terrell Davis. For every Mike Anderson, there's a Clinton Portis. Alvin Kamara is that all-pro, perennial all-pro kind of guy. That Portis, that Terrell Davis, different kind of back, but you know kind of the kind of ilk that I'm saying. I definitely think even after 2 games now, Alvin Kamara's price tag has probably gone up. But I think if you're the Saints, as long as you plan on Klint Kubiak being your offensive coordinator, you got to pay Alvin Kamara to keep him because he's a preeminent weapon in the league right now, especially in this system.
Right, and that's exactly where I was going with this too, because I just think that Kamara is showing not only does he thrive in this system, but he's got a lot of tread on his tires. He may be 30 years old, but he's not a declining player. 2 or 3 years in this system, I think you're going to see talk again of Alvin Kamara possibly being a Hall of Fame kind of player. Now they've got to win. They've got to win playoff games. We'll get back to the playoff game, win playoff games, maybe win a championship. But unlike, say, a Cam Jordan, where you see he is now in a reserve role instead of a starter, Kamara is a feature back at 29 years old, and he is showing very little wear and tear. You're seeing a lot what you saw from 2017 to 2020 era Alvin Kamara. And so, to me, I'm going to go ahead and pay the man. I'm going to bite the bullet. I get it. You're going to pay Shaheed soon. You're going to have to pay a Debo. You might have to pay Chase Young. Chase Young's kind of been quiet. He's been making his presence known. He's been having an impact, but he's not getting the sacks yet.
Right.
I still think that's going to come, but that's a decision you have to make. Do I pay Chase Young? I think you do, just because he fits so well in what you're trying to do defensively. But you've got some. Go ahead.
No, I agree with that. You look at Cam Jordan's age. Figuring that you might have another year or 2 out of Cam in a reduced role, but you need that pass rusher. So you need to pay you either need to pay Chase Young or you need to plan on moving up in the draft to get a pass rusher, and that's always a gamble. At least with Chase is playing well, so he's a known commodity. With the Debo, hey, this is another subject that I don't want to get deeply into tonight because I'm exhausted. Yeah. But I think you do pay. I think you pay a Debo and you let Lattimore walk out the door next year.
I think that's going to be the plan.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think this is Lattimore's last year, and I think people are pretty much satisfied with that because Lattimore is somebody, he's a great asset, but he can't stay healthy. He's on the wrong side of 30. Will be on the wrong side of 30. And you've got Kool-Aid, you've got Debo, you've got Alontae Taylor, you've got a lot of depth. And you're showing with Isaac Gidham last year, this year, Rico Payton, although he's only really appeared in one game.
Right.
But you're showing that you can groom some cornerbacks. You know, it's great to have an elite cornerback, but you don't have to have one in this system.
Well, and we credit Kubiak for his system making productive running backs and making adequate quarterbacks. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dennis Allen could take me at my broken down age and make me into an adequate cornerback. So so there's that too.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I don't care what Kubiak's system does. I'm not hitting the holes like Alvin Kamara. Sorry. Not at 56, no. Bob, what you have coming up on the Bayou Blitz tomorrow?
We had to actually move it to Thursday night because of Brendan's travel schedule. Okay. So we're going to go Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. We're going to have, but barring another minor weather disaster, we were supposed to have them last week, but this week we will be having Delvin Breaux on. Delvin's part of a big, Saints fan cruise promotional event. That we at the Bayou Blitz are happy and honored to be part of the promotion of doing over the next several months. So we're going to have Delvin along with several other former Saints, and we're trying to get a few current players roped into the mix too. As you know, it's very difficult to get current players during the season, but we're working on it. And we're going to preview the Eagles game as well, obviously.
Well, last question I have for you tonight before I let you get out of here. Your prediction of the score this Sunday.
Like I said, I like the Saints offensive matchup better than I like the Saints defensive matchup. But yeah, I think this team is riding a wave of confidence now. I was actually worried they'd be too confident coming into the Dallas game. They proved me wrong. This team seems pretty well grounded. Just playing like they can do, acting like they can do no wrong. When you have that kind of confidence, and the Eagles, man, for as talented as they are, and they are a very talented roster, something's wrong with them. Something just seems off with them. I don't know whether it's coaching, lack of motivation from the players, or a combination of the two, but something's missing there. And now they're coming to New Orleans after getting their heart cut out by a piss poor Atlanta team. I don't like that. Yeah. The Falcons are not good.
No.
I can't see the Saints putting up another 40-burger, but I can see the Saints winning this one. I'm going to go 30-21 Saints.
I feel a lot like you. I think there is something missing from this Eagles team, and I think they're a little tired of Sirianni's bullshit, for lack of a better term. I thought that was showing up last year. They hated the assistant coaches. They've changed the assistant coaches. And I just don't think they're all bought in. And I think they're kind of like the Cowboys from the standpoint of, we're so talented, you should just roll over for us.
Yeah.
And I think that the Saints win this game. I'm not predicting a 40-burger. It would not surprise me at this point. They did it again. But I think the Saints come out, jump on them early, and probably win this game by 10, kind of like how you had it, 30-20, something like that, or 35-20, 21. I just think the Eagles will want to try and make a statement early, but I think Alvin Kamara has another big game. I honestly do, because I was not impressed with that run defense at all.
No.
So I think it's going to be another game where Alvin Kamara gets 2 or 3 touchdowns easily. So it's the train just keeps rolling. So, and I'll tell you what, I'm loving it. I'm kind of pissed off I didn't buy the Saints Falcons tickets. We were so trying to get the Broncos game tickets, and they were already expensive in August. But I'm kind of pissed we didn't try and buy the Falcons Saints tickets for November, because that's the game I wanted to go to, because I just love watching the Saints play the Falcons in the Dome.
Yeah.
It's no matter what the records are, it's just a fun game. But the more they win, the more expensive these tickets are gonna be. It's amazing how people have been craving this. And LSU's Brian Kelly's now the most hated man in America in Louisiana, not Dennis Allen. So it's good. Calvin, I'll be honest with you. I think they've only gotten to page 2 or 3 because they've gotten up so early on these teams that they haven't had to go into the trick bag at all. So I know people worried about Kubiak getting a head coaching job next year and all these things. My thing is, there's going to be a lot of hot names. Kubiak will be one of them. But I think you're going to see old war horses get picked before Kubiak right now.
Yeah.
I think they're going to, I could be totally wrong, but we shouldn't worry about this. Let's just enjoy the ride and see how far they go this year.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be plenty of time to talk about that, because I do think it's a strong possibility. That's why Klint made the move from San Francisco to here, so that way the offense can be solely his. It's the next stepping stone on his resume. But there's still 15 regular season games to go, and hopefully at least a couple of playoff games. And let's just enjoy the ride while it happens.
Absolutely. There'll be some games we're going to lose, and it's going to look like a struggle, and people are going to be worried that they figured out Kubiak and things like that. But in the meantime, let's enjoy the ride. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I appreciate it as always. Bob appreciates it. Please watch his Bayou Blitz on Thursday night, and we'll see you next week on Under the Dome. Hopefully talking about another Saints victory, 40-point, 30-point differential between the Saints and their opponent. I expect a big win Sunday. In the meantime, have a good night, everybody. Thank you all.